I had a meeting a couple of days ago with a general contractor who mainly builds kitchens and bathrooms, higher end kitchens and bathrooms. He's been in business, I think about 15 years. I think he's doing around $8 million in revenue and just hovering around break-even point. And the first conversation was scheduled for 30 minutes, and I think it ended up being almost 2 hours because he loves to talk. But I learned a lot from his business, and that first conversation, he seemed receptive to change. He kind of agreed that, there were some things that he was not doing, and, the conversation went in the right direction. It kind of took a turn because 2 days ago he said he was going to schedule another call. I invited him to come on with his son, who was part of the business, and his accountant, because they're not really using their numbers as the steering wheel for the bus, and he understood that was a problem. And because he understood that was a problem, when I invited the accountant to join it on the next call, which technically was supposed to be today, he never scheduled. So I knew something was up, and when I followed up with an idea of expediting extra work, because again, he's kind of underwater. At least I haven't looked at financials, I haven't looked at anything yet. We haven't done forensic analysis or anything yet. This is all from what he's telling me. Again, he seemed receptive. So looking at his websites, I told him he's pushing people away. And I told him the story about another company in the roofing industry that took 10 months to find software. And I finally said, it doesn't take 10 months to find available software. It should take, 2 days, 3 days tops, right? And 10 months of doing demo work, demonstrations of these products, and these products were only ranging from $89 to $350 a month. It shouldn't take that long. So 10 months later, I'm saying, you're getting into analysis paralysis, and when you make a decision, then call me, I'll come back. And they actually ended up building their own software. Instead of paying $89 or $350 a month, they spent over $100,000 building the software, and they still have lots of bugs and so on. So I'm telling him this story of how this company wanted software to be designed for him. And the way I rephrased it to him was, you want a software to be designed for an upside down company. Wouldn't it be better to right side up your company or design your company properly? Then that way 99% of the software available out in the market would fit you, right? Instead of trying to design software that works for you upside down, such as, he liked to do paper invoices. So he wanted to have, a paper invoice with the check marks and that he could print out and then fill in manually. And I said, what's the point of doing software if we're going to do that? So anyways, I gave him that as a case study, and he thought that was ridiculous, right? But now he's kind of doing the same thing, that he's doing illogical things. As an example, one of the flags that he raised was the fact that, and by the way, the company has been around for 15 years. He was an employee of this company. He had just bought the company about 2.5 years ago, just around COVID. And that's where, he's kind of upside down. He's gone through working capital and stuff like that. So I was telling him, those flags with other companies, and he laughed about that. Says that, he doesn't understand why anyone would do that. And I also mentioned he was pushing his future potential clients away by some of the poor branding he's doing. He was very proud of the branding, so I knew it was going to be a sore spot. So I had to be very delicate in how to bring this information. And that's why we were going to schedule a call today, so we can talk about branding, the philosophy behind branding, and subliminal messaging behind branding, and how you use branding to get inside your future potential client's subconscious brain to allow them to make a positive decision. So anyways, we had a brief conversation about that, and he was gung-ho about having that conversation. And the other thing that he mentioned that I said this is clearly a red flag is the fact that he hires designers to do the kitchen designs and the bathroom designs, and he turns them into salespeople. And I said, respectfully, isn't that like you trying to take a racehorse and having them plowing the field? And if they're plowing the field, how are they going to be in shape for tomorrow's race? And, he kind of thought about that, but that's the way we've always done it, right? The previous owner did it this way, he's doing it this way, and he had three people, key people in the company that left him, and that's why the revenue loss or the profit loss. And he doesn't have a lot of sales in the pipeline, and he says he's very aggressive in terms of marketing, but yet the results don't show that because, if you're aggressive in marketing, you're aggressive in building trusted relationships, right? I don't like the word sales. Sales is a four-letter word. So long story short, he tried to convince me that, how can you have salespeople that don't do the design, because the design process is how you build a trusted relationship. So anyways, that was, a conversation that I thought I'd better leave because, this could be a whole can of worms, and we'll deal with that with the branding next meeting. And what I was going to tell him is it's like I love Formula One racing, and that's like taking the Formula One, like Williams winning team, and saying, well, I don't want you just to win races. I want you to be the mechanic as well. I want you to be the tire changing guy, right? And how can you win races and still be changing tires and tuning the cars and stuff like that? So I believe a rainmaker is the best rainmaker and does nothing else. A rainmaker is professional and the best at building trusted relationships. Like I said, I hate the word sales. Sales is a four-letter word. It's a bad word. And I don't believe in sales. I believe people do business with people they trust and know well, right? And that's where the relationship comes in, right? So when you build a relationship, then you bring in, the people to do the design, but you're still in charge of the project. To me, you get the best of both worlds. He was very proud of the fact that his designers were doing between $2 and $3 million each in terms of sales. A professional rainmaker with 10 different designers now can do 20 or 30 million in sales because all he does is build relationships. And he goes in to say, here are some of the changes that we come up with, right? While the designer's on the Zoom call to answer any questions. But he's the lead. And typically that is the owner of the company, but in larger companies, that is the sales department. And the owner or the visionary, the owner, plays golf with the people who are bringing in, $5-10 million a year through stepping stone relationships. Anyways, that's the only way I know how to design, $5 million, $20 million, $100 million companies is by having, racehorses designed or rainmakers who are professional at building relationships. You can't take someone who can bring in 50 million or $20 million in sales and say, well, now you have to design. You have to learn to design. Or worse, you take a geek who knows nothing about sales, has never taken a sales course. And by the way, my training, I thought I was going to be an architect when I was in high school, and that's where my training came from. I don't remember one course in sales. I don't. Your nose was buried in paper. I'm an old fogey. Nose was buried in paper, and all you saw was paper. You didn't even meet with clients. We were a social pariah. We didn't, aside from our classmates, we didn't interact with anyone because the workload was so heavy. So how can you train someone like that to be a professional rainmaker, a professional relationship builder? It just did not make sense to me, and that's why I left it alone. So today's conversation, I called him because I said, I met with my team and we came up with a strategy to get leads or sales in the pipeline as quickly as possible, because you need to get into the black again, because you got to meet payroll and so on, and we're getting into the Christmas season and stuff like that. So we got to watch the cash flow. And he has an accountant he's very proud of, and they don't look at the numbers as I said. They don't do cash flow projections. They don't even do budgeted to actual on each job, so he doesn't know where he is on each project until the end of the year. And I said, this doesn't make any sense. This is not how you run a company. And a company that's been in business for 15 years now, you should be north of 20 million for sure, if all the systems were in place, if all the strategies were in place, if the team was in place, if people were visionaries and were empowered to do their work. Anyways, I just wanted to put that out there, and I would love to hear from you. How many businesses do you know that the designers are the salespeople? Aren't usually the business owner the salesperson, designers feed him design, and he does the presentation, and he does the contract negotiations, stuff like that? And for larger companies, aren't there a sales department and marketing department that look after this? And supporting the marketing and sales department is obviously the design department, right? So I'm just wondering if anyone else is running a business that way, or if I ran into a unicorn, or maybe I'm wrong. So I would love to hear your questions, comments below, and tell me where I went wrong with this client, because I feel we no longer have a meeting of the minds. So would love to hear your questions, comments. Let's talk again soon. Take care.